Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested.
And Frank from Tested.
Welcome to the latest episode of This Old Effect Shop, where we work on fun projects.
Fun
here
stuff.
with Frank. Frank, model making.
Yeah.
You know, we've built some store-bought model kits before.
Yep.
We've
some
done some
Gundams.
Gundam, we've done VR kit bashing.
Yep.
And I want to do some model making today, not from scratch, but inspired by a blog I saw online. There's this Japanese model maker, I think his name is Masakise, M-A-S-A-K-I-S-E, and he did these miniatures that were like BioShock-inspired underwater cities. And we're really excited because the finished product's amazing, and when I looked through the process, he documented it so well, how he did it. I thought it would be fun for us to try to recreate that process.
Let's try and do it.
Absolutely. So basically, there are these miniature city diorama sets that you can buy. You can buy these online at eBay or HobbyLink Japan, and they are miniature skyscrapers. I think Tokyo skyscrapers. Each is a little different, and I think they come in they're like 8 different ones. They connect together, and the idea is that they're just supposed to sit at your desk. Some people might paint them, but what this guy did is take these, paint them, weather them up, add foliage, and then cast them in resin to make it look like they're underwater, submerged.
Awesome.
I know, isn't that a great idea? Yeah. Let's try to recreate that process, and I think the first step, what would it be?
I think we need to give these buildings a little bit of damage.
And also to make them look like they're not just gray
Too clean.
plastic. A little too clean.
Gotta brown them up.
Yeah, brown them up, make them look like a dystopian city before the flood comes, it's all wrecked.
This is like Planet of the Apes and then underwater.
Okay, so you have your set, I have mine.
Yep.
I do have a third one in case you get ahead of yourself, you can work on 2. Let's sit down and get to painting.
Cool.
Okay, so before I get to painting, I feel like I want to bring out some details from the sculpture, right?
Sure.
Before I just get to destroying it up.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of detail here. Like mine has a water fountain, there's a helicopter pad. I don't almost want it to be like a gray concrete building.
No. Well, I mean, you know, sometimes buildings are like maybe black marble or mirrored glass or something like that. So you could start with just like washing in colors just to kind of like weather everything up and make it look like it's all you know, been corroded and stuff like that. And then maybe make one of your building, like I might make this building darker.
Right.
I mean, it's already kind of
tinted, yep.
But I might make this almost black. I might actually take this and cut this and make this building leaning into that one, like it's fallen over.
That would be cool.
So I think when you have stuff like this, you could really kind of get creative with breaking the building. And then I have X-Actos, and I have this like kind of carving tool, which maybe we'll get in there and just kind of like gouge out some parts and make it look like there's exposed beams, or I don't know. Like, see what you could do.
Exactly. Okay, cool. Let's get some paint.
I think I'm going to start cutting and carving first.
I like that these all break apart, so I can
Mine doesn't come apart. Mine's all one.
Match. Oh, you got all one? Well,
yeah, mine's an all one.
I can mix and match if I wanted, for example. Kind of like the look of these.
Yeah, I think breaking up some of the perfection in these is going to be kind of key. All right, so I cheated. I used a bandsaw a little bit.
Holy smokes!
So I just cut straight into that building, so that I can glue it.
Nice.
And have it leaning up against that one.
These crack apart real nicely. I feel like this is the part of the process where you can really do no wrong. Like,
yeah, I mean, you can
too heavy a hand. That's fine. Just balance it out on the other side, as long as it looks random, maybe.
Well, you always want to try and think of like how that damage may have happened. To just kind of go crazy, like, yeah, that's fine, but like anytime that we're building stuff for movies and stuff like that, that damage has to have a backstory. Like, why is there a hole there? Or why is it distributed more on the bottom or the top? Yeah, exactly. Like that's why I want this building to have fallen over. Like some like I don't know, something happened, earthquake or something, and I want to have it leaning into the other building, which is going to give me an excuse to put these big gouges in the other building. Let me grab a Dremel.
based on what this model maker did, I'm going to poke some holes in the windows
Yeah.
to make it look like the steel structure of the building's there, but like there are definitely cracks and holes in the building.
Cool.
And a Dremel tool, great idea. What are you on next?
I'm starting to like get some color in there. I know that in the lower parts of the building, it's going to be the most underwater, the most like kind of dirty and sedimenty. So I'm kind of starting down there to just kind of get some color, get it really into the details, and then kind of wipe some of it off so that the stuff like really just sits in the cracks.
I'm getting to a point where I ask myself how much destruction is too much destruction? Is it too little destruction?
Well, again, you want to tell us like what is it that put all these buildings underwater? Was it an earthquake? Was it a tidal wave? Was it the oceans rising? Climate change?
Time.
Yeah, so I mean that's really
so how do buildings fall apart? How they deteriorate? No one's looking after them.
Well, if you want to just make it like natural deterioration, but I mean, is there an event that caused this specific destruction? So give it a backstory. Make it.
In which direction did it come from?
Yeah.
Maybe? All right.
How long ago did that destruction happen? Maybe there was a fire in the building too. Maybe there's people that live in one of the floors still, and who knows? I mean, you almost can't have too much backstory. Sometimes backstory, like making up the backstory is the fun of it,
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like what you did there, Frank. That's really cool. So you did washes on the bottom here, and then you're actually painting heavier spots or leaving it along longer?
Well, I'm using this brush that has like a chopped up bristles at the end, and I'm kind of putting it on kind of randomly and then wiping off, and just kind of building that up over layers.
And then you're just applying it more for the building you think you want to be darker?
I'm not totally sure yet. I'm just kind of making it up as I go, kind of.
And so it's a brush like this where you just had uneven.
Yeah, these are
uneven bristles.
Yeah, these are some makeup brushes that I had, but I think you can get these at like regular, arts and crafts brush stores. I think that it's a pretty common style brush. But having that uneven end, you can get like kind of a randomness to it when you're adding, layers of color into there. It's kind of nice. Like when I use these for doing prosthetic makeups and stuff like that, I use that for like distributing, layers of textured color in real light washes, and you kind of treat it the same way with this stuff.
Time for washes. My favorite part.
Browning it up. You also have to think about once you start adding in the foliage on top of this, what's going to read through. So I'm painting a little bit heavier than maybe I would in other circumstances, because I know that I want some of that to kind of read through the foliage.
Now, is your intention not to paint like any blues or anything, any colors not that you would otherwise paint brown over?
I don't know.
Because I'm feeling like
if you want
a lot of it's going to be brown. You're going to green the foliage, blue with the water, but I've wanted to have some reds in there. Paint those first and then brown it up on top of that.
I would experiment. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So we got some foliage from just a local hobby store, and these are really made for miniature train sets, which are much higher scale. So one of the challenges was figuring out what type of trees. Normally, if you buy this would be a perfectly good sized tree for a model train set, but that'd be like a giant redwood for
so you have to
our
use
skyscraper
just
set.
Little bitty pieces.
And
so I'll probably just you know what? I may do the tree second. I might use some of this ground stuff first, and then place the tree second. So I'll put some. It's probably easiest to do this with a matte medium, so you have time to really place. But I don't want to waste that much time right now, so I think I'm just going to put some super glue and just kind of put it where I want it, and then kind of dab this stuff on.
What's a matte medium?
Matte medium is just like the binder that they have in paint. You can get a gloss or a matte version, and it's like paint without the pigment in it.
Ah, okay. So you can actually apply it with a brush.
Yeah, and then as that dries, it's kind of an adhesive. So if you paint on some of this matte medium and then put the turf on it, then as the matte medium dries, like maybe the next day or a couple hours later, then it just kind of grabs onto it and stays.
And so you can have things like this kind of turf, or sawdust or whatever.
Yeah, all kinds of gravel, and you can do different scales for different things. But yeah, so I think I'm just going to use some super glue and just kind of put it on creatively, and then dust in some of this stuff to kind of knock some of this stuff. The spray glue might be a little bit too invasive, like 'cause it's just going to go everywhere kind of. I don't know, it might work. I might give it a shot. Hey Nick, can you hand me a can of that spray glue? I want to try it.
So compared to when you do paint applications for makeup, it's still, or painting resin kits, you're still thinking of building up layers, but in this case, the layers aren't all paint. You have layers of different things that add both color and texture.
Yeah. You have to try and in your mind think about where you might want to go with some of this stuff. You don't necessarily have to have a plan. Like sometimes it's nice to just kind of freestyle.
It's funny, when you were applying the first coat of the paint, I was worried it was going to be too dark lower. But as you're putting this foliage on there, and also just some of this turf on here, it kind of diffuses it a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's what I was saying. Like you have to remember that these colors you still want it to read through whatever you're putting on next. So it can almost be a little bit heavy.
Frank, your two little diorama cities look amazing.
They're kind of fun.
Holy crap.
I want to do more of these.
Yeah. No, I definitely bought a lot, so we can keep on going. But okay, I'm at a point where I'm ready to add the foliage.
Yes.
And I added a lot of darker browns in setting them on the bottom here, a little lighter at the top. Something I was noticing as you were doing your foliage is you're adding trees at the top of the buildings, but not so much under where like the water level is going to be.
Yeah, I don't think a tree's really going to grow underwater, but maybe these are like, there's got to be like kelpy looking trees that
moss and like.
Yeah, we could probably raise the water level up pretty high, and even on this one where there are kind of branchy things, it could still be conceivable that makes sense. I don't know.
And also something that we don't know yet is how that resin is going to behave when you pour it in. Is it going to disturb the foliage, that tree you have set down there?
We're going to have to just try it.
Right, exactly. That's why you did more than one. Okay, so for me to get started here, I have this painted, and then I want to do the turf first.
Yes.
So teach me your spray technique.
I would take the buildings apart and then just give it a little. I would start by holding it here and just giving a little spritz down here and putting that on there, and then knocking off as much as you can. And then if you want more, spritz it again, knock a little more, and then just kind of build it up slowly.
It's all about building it up.
Yeah, use the dark one and then this one, and then I was taking these branches.
Yeah.
And just taking a pair of tweezers and yanking off a little stem. You figure the stem of these things is kind of like the trunk of the tree.
Right. And so a small branch becomes a
whole tree. So then you just put a little dot of super glue on there and you set it in there. Think about this moss climbing the sides of the building. Like, see how this one, like it's just kind of right there. You don't want to coat the whole thing.
Yeah.
And the stuff's going to grow more on the top than necessarily on the side.
So is this with the spray as well, or is this with the super glue? That's also with the spray?
Yeah, I just sprayed it, and then, because when you spray it, you don't have to put this stuff everywhere. You could still kind of place it.
Got it.
But the glue is just going to kind of help it grab. And a lot of this stuff comes out clumpy, so you can kind of...
You can still maneuver it around, push it around a little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
Just go for it.
Okay, Frank, we have dystopian
Tiny
miniature
little
cities.
buildings.
Look at how, this is our future.
I think this is cool.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
Like, if we had stopped right here,
I'd be happy.
I'd be happy. It's a little diorama already.
They're a little on the fragile side. Like if you handle any of this stuff too much, it's just
rub
gonna
off.
fall. Yeah.
Right. So one way to keep it in place, perfect what we want to do, is encase it in resin.
Yeah, let's submerge it.
So the encasing part, normally, previously we'd make a dump mold,
silicone mold,
but we're not going to do that this time.
Yeah, we want to have the resin be its own kind of holder. So
right.
So what I did is I went over under the laser and I cut little squares so that what we can do is build a box around this.
Okay.
And what I did is I waxed the surface, the inside surface, so that we can pop these walls off afterwards.
Okay, and that's important because we don't like with the silicone mold. That silicone, nothing sticks to it. It's silicone, so that comes out. Yeah. But if we had made just a box here with like wood or,
I may be goofing up. Maybe this will get stuck in there. I don't know.
Okay. All right.
But I'm pretty sure that just I put a couple of coats of wax on there. I think it'll be good enough that we can get this thing off.
What type of wax are you using?
It was just paste wax.
Paste wax.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know that resin will most likely pop off or
won't
stick. Okay. All right.
Should.
So let's build our. We'll see. This base becomes part of it.
No, it can. I'm gonna hot glue mine onto here.
Okay.
Because you want to make sure that this thing doesn't try and float away in there. So I'm gonna just kind of hot glue this sort of in the center. So if it does become part of it,
no, I think it looks great. Yeah. I like that.
Now I purposefully made these walls wider than they need to be, so that way I could do kind of a staggered kind of box. It just makes it easy to get everything nice and square.
Now I'm gonna peel. Does it matter if I peel the other side?
No, don't peel the other side.
Don't peel the other side.
Because
that way you know
you'll forget
which side is waxed.
Got it. So, and it's nice having the laser cutter because I know that all these sides are 90 degrees square, so we're not going to be all wonky.
Now, looking at the model maker's blog, the guy who originally did this, he didn't laser cut sides to his mold box.
Yeah.
He used what looked like four plastic sheets, blue sheets, that apparently the resin didn't stick to, and then built a more rigid wooden box around that.
Yeah, there's plastics out there that the resin won't stick to. I didn't really have the time to goof around and figure out which ones he was using. So this is kind of my easy, I know this will most likely work. I don't have to test all kinds of other things. And I also want this to be a nice, slick surface. If I had used there's other plastics I do have here that I know the resin won't stick to, but it's got a textured surface, and I want this to be glass smooth. So even when I wax these things, the last thing I did was kind of polish that wax off so that the surface of this box is as smooth as possible.
That means when we remove the walls, the edges of the resin, the walls of the water
shouldn't need to be polished.
Right.
Now there's a chance that if there's an error, we'll have to get some polishing compound and maybe polish down the edges of this resin. I don't want to. I want it to just come out nice and smooth.
Okay.
So we'll see.
All right. So what you were talking about earlier is you had made the these edges wider than the edges.
Yeah, see how if you look straight down on there, that way.
It's tight. It's tight around.
Yeah. Just put a little dot in the, see how it's
dot in the center.
And
okay. I want this to be as perpendicular as possible. Okay, Frank, time for the resin.
Yeah.
What's the resin we're using today?
Well, we pretty much want just any clear resin. You can use an epoxy, you can use a polyester. I'm using a urethane because this one gives us about a 9-minute work time, and it says 90-minute demold. So in about an hour and a half, we can take the walls off of this.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is the process going to be to mix it and then just start pouring, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can degas this if you want, but I think having those little bubbles in there are going to be kind of neat. It's going to add some dimension. So I'm going to, when I add the pigment, I'm going to try and not like whip bubbles into it. And when I mix the A and B together, again, I'm going to try and not really give it too many bubbles.
So pigment, we want to make it look a little bit like blue, a light bluish, still keep that translucency.
Yeah.
What's the pigment you're using?
This is just a urethane pigment. So I'm going to take a little bit of this on the end of a toothpick when we make our batch, and I'm just going to put it
just a
tiny little bit. You want to sneak up on that color because a lot of times putting these pigments into a urethane, it'll be overpowerful really quick.
Does it matter which half you put it in?
With this stuff, I generally put it in the B side.
Okay.
But I've also seen people pigment both sides. So if you're just putting it in one side, you have to remember that it's going to be half as potent. So if you make it like just perfect on the B side, then once you add the A, it's going to be half as strong. So you want to think about that.
And this is 1-to-1 parts?
No, this is 190 by weight. So we have a digital scale.
Yes.
We'll do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up one small batch that we could pour just in the bottom. Partially to test if there's leaks. Because if there's leaks, then it's only going to be a little bit that's going to leak out.
Yep.
And another reason is I kind of want to build this up in layers. I want to put a little bit of a darker color the very first in, just deeper underwater.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, we'll put that one, then we'll put the next one a little bit lighter, and then we can put our little things in there.
So we went to the hobby store and bought tiny little rubber fish.
Yeah.
Like
whales.
Sharks.
Where's my sharks?
And they're tiny here, but in the scale of our diorama, they're massive.
Yeah.
And it's perfect size.
Yeah, I think it'll be cool.
Yeah, mutant whales, mutant sharks, perfect for the diorama. For the gradient, how is that gradient going to happen? How careful do you have to be when you're changing the tinting between the layers?
It's going to be a real subtle change. I don't think I'm going to add I might even add a little tiny touch of green into it too underneath. So I don't know. I'm going to kind of experiment.
But you want to then remember, be consistent so you don't have to be too different.
Yeah, we'll keep it in the cup so we can see the next layer, and we just kind of sort of match that.
So in case the resin does spill between some cracks or it's not perfectly even, what can you do afterward once it's solid?
I mean, you can just cut it off and then you can polish the edge of that urethane. So you get some rubbing compound and a little, like an end of a drill polisher, and just polish it up.
Okay, so those clean up, you can
Should be, yeah.
All right.
Yep, cool. All right, let's try this.
One tip of a toothpick at a time.
Yeah, you don't want to put too much in there because you can goof the whole thing up. And again, this is about as dark as I want that bottom to be. I don't think I want to go any darker because then you won't be able to see stuff. See, there's a little bit of bubbles in there, but I think a lot of those will rise out.
You're of course pouring. Be careful not to hit any of the buildings.
No, I don't want to hit the buildings. I want to just kind of get it in there, go nice and slow. How deep you want your whale? You want it?
I'm gonna have mine breach.
So tell me when.
Oh, this is the last batch going up?
Well, you're gonna put the whale in.
Yeah, that's good.
And then we'll put the last little bit. And then you'll put the whale on that.
I think we should have all three of ours match height, so you can line them up. Top end. I think that's.
Well, I don't know. I don't.
You're not gonna.
No.
You're gonna have that one much higher.
I think. I don't know.
Okay, it's been a while. We have 2 layers in, and can tell this is that first layer. Very viscous already.
Well, it's almost all the way set. Yeah. It's not really moving at all.
And then the second layer.
It's moving real slow.
It really accelerates close to that 9-minute mark.
Yeah.
Because even like a minute ago, it was moving around.
Yep.
Oh, that curve is interesting.
Yeah.
It's their experience, I guess.
So now that that
Yes.
layer is pretty much set, we can put our little creatures in.
Our sea creatures.
So I'm gonna have my sharks swimming around,
Circle in a building.
circling that building.
That's cool. I got a whale. I sanded off the Made in China mark on it. It's not a branded whale of the future. And I'm going to try to do what the model maker did and have them breach.
Well, I think you're gonna have to time it so that. Remember when the resin was almost there? You're gonna have to kind of keep tapping
it
at
in.
it. Yeah, because I think what's gonna happen is if you put it in when it's wet, it's just gonna float to the top. So you need to like kind of put it in there and hold it, kind of. So it's gonna be a little bit trickier.
9 minutes.
You got a little extra if you want, or if you want to check. So
Right. So I can use this to check.
yeah,
That's great.
But you also have to remember that this resin under here is warming up, so it's going to create a little bit of exotherm, which is going to make that resin go faster.
Really?
So you're probably just going to have to sit there and hold it for a couple minutes.
All right. At least I have a little bit of time to pose it.
Are you still holding that whale?
Yes, we've bonded overnight. Well, it's bonded to the resin.
Nice.
But I think I can let go now.
Yeah,
And that
resin's nice
resin
and hard.
is nice and solid. Fully cured. We decided to wait overnight.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Well, now let's hope that the wax that I put on the acrylic will release.
It's a big moment of truth because these are just experimental molds.
There was a little bit of leaking.
Yep. Now, how would I avoid that in the future?
Maybe a little bit better hot gluing. Like it probably leaked under this corner where there's no hot glue.
Got it. So just...
But that's why we did it in stages. Like the first one was pretty much set, so even that little bit that leaked out, it's not a huge deal.
Right, right. It's not on the edges. The edges were pretty clean. It was most of that bottom right there. And you're just... Oh, okay. So just using screwdriver along the edges and prying off. Look at that. Popped off the side. Oh!
Hey, it worked.
It worked. That's awesome. All right, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, see like the color difference?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a gradient there. Yeah, I want to pop all these off and take a look. So look at that. All right, while Frank's popping off the other ones, I'll show you guys exactly what he's talking about. This is Frank's little diorama with the building collapsed. And you can see, I love that you can already see the shark that you have swimming. Looks great. Looks like it's swimming between the buildings. And that resin just went all the way through. So I do notice there is a little bit of a seam here, which I think I'm going to have more of on mine.
Yeah.
That's just the resin squeezing between the two walls in the corners, but that's easy enough to cut off.
Yeah.
And this is crystal clear. I'm just looking at the name of the resin. Crystal clear right there on all four sides. Plus, the gradient is, you can barely see it, but it goes from a darker blue on a second layer to a lighter blue at the top. A little bit more green at the bottom.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of neat.
It's awesome. The second shark right here. It's a little more dynamic.
It's funny, you could see the bubbles that came out that were inside of this building, from the air that was in this building that I had cut open.
Yeah, so as you were pouring the resin, air bubbles sneak out.
Yeah.
But it's very slowly, and it's literally curing as the air bubbles. Looks like some type of crazy sea creature. But very clear. I'm surprised that it's so clear without having to do anything with
well, that's why I wanted to use these pieces of acrylic. Like you could probably get away with other kinds of plastic or wood or something like that, but then you'd have to polish it, and I didn't want to do that. Like this, I think we can just run an X-Acto right on the seam and clean up that seam, and that's it.
All right, let's take a look at this one. Wow. Yeah, these are awesome. And the foliage inside underwater in the resin held in place. Even some of the trees, it just looks like moss that's been grown. Pops off. There you go. And then finally for mine, see the whale. I got a breach, a little bit of a breach.
Yep. Now what we can do is we could take some, we'll clean up these edges, and then we'll take a little bit of gel medium, like acrylic gel medium, and we could paint on the surface of this to look like there's waves crashing.
Awesome. All right. Now, Frank, if you had made a silicone mold for this, do you think demolding would be easier? Any cleaner?
I think that this is a pretty good way to do it. I don't know that I would.
You want to make a mold that you could reuse that's the perfect size to pop out?
Maybe if I was doing a bunch of these, I guess, but I think this isn't that bad.
Yeah, it's real clean.
Yeah.
This shark looks amazing. This shark going through the buildings. Yeah. Okay, finishing touches.
Finishing touches.
Adding the waves on the top of this.
Yeah, you can get, they have like an acrylic like gel medium that you can get at the hobby stores for doing like, you know, waves and like little water breaks on if you're doing miniatures. But I'm pretty sure I could just use just any kind of matte medium or gel medium for acrylic. So I have this Nova brand. We use a lot of this brand at the shop, so we'll give it a shot.
When we say like a gel medium,
yeah,
it's
basically like a thick version of the binder that's in acrylic.
Okay.
It's not watered down, and it doesn't have any pigment in it. So like if you wanted to paint something and give it like dimensionality, like oil paintings have like texture on them sometimes, you can add gel medium to acrylic paint. But sometimes we use gel medium for other things, like making waves on miniature models.
Okay. Let's give it more robust texture.
Yeah, I mean,
some more viscous.
You know, I don't know how it's gonna work, so we're gonna give it a try. Never done it before. And I guess you gotta think about it as like the waves are crashing. So you want it to be directional. You don't want it to just be everywhere. So, you know, and it goes in like in waves. So you want it to kind of be like rows of stuff. So
maybe not exactly parallel, but all have one directionality.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So, you know.
So you're just plying out like a line with a paintbrush. Pretty careful. It doesn't need to go all the way across because you just think about how wide a wave is. And just pushing it around a little bit with a toothpick.
You're almost like sculpting with paint.
Building up that crest.
Yeah.
Now this is going to dry on top of that resin. Do you feel like there's a good working time with this?
Yeah, I think there's plenty of working time with this. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of experimenting. I haven't done it before. I'm aware of kind of how the technique works. And so, I don't know, winging it.
When we were looking at the website where we found this inspiration, the guy had done other models where he'd done similar technique with the casting of the resin, but maybe on a wider platform, he got some dimensionality in the resin itself.
Oh, like a wave was going on.
To make, like, how would you pour the resin in?
You would have to pour it in a couple of pours so that it feels like it's moving. That's probably pretty tricky to just time it right. But
so you hold it at an angle, pour a little bit in, let it set mostly, and then tilt it to another angle, and then pour a little bit more in.
I think so.
There we have it.
I like these. These are fun.
Underwater city dioramas. I totally want to do more. And it feels like something that you can do at home. Yeah. You could buy these kits. They're on eBay, Amazon, Hobby Link Japan.
Yep.
They're about like, you can get these for about 10 bucks each.
Yep.
And then we just went to the hobby store and got some foliage.
Yep.
Some turf, tiny trees. The paint, we used this very standard
just acrylic
paint for washes. And then you can just buy Smooth On, crystal clear Smooth On from for the water.
Yeah, from Reynolds Advanced Materials, or I'm sure that they have it online and everything like that.
And even if you don't have a laser cutter to make your mold box, you could cut them yourself or use plastic.
You might have to figure it out a little bit. I'm sure that there's other ways to do it. This just seemed to be the most sensible way for me to do it.
Yep, and then we just bought also our tiny sea creatures from another hobby store.
Yeah.
But they're fantastic. So much fun. It's relaxing.
Yeah, it is. I think doing like scale miniatures and models and stuff is definitely something to zen out and relax to.
All right. Well, we each have our underwater cities. If you guys decide to take up this project, we'd love to see what you guys put together, but maybe in the future we'll get all of these lined up together and make a giant city.
There you go.
That'd be really cool. Well, thanks for watching this episode of The Soul Effect Shop. We'll have more episodes, of course, in the future. from Frank's cave, from Frank's workshop. Until then, Frank and I will see you next time.
See you.